So to start off, I'm going to go through some of this equipment, what its purpose is, and how it sort of works. Now, in the corner here, of course, this is a makeshift Bacta tank. You should all know how these work. If you do see these on the battlefield, the buttons on the side are how they operate. These ones don't heal you like the ones in the medbay do, but they're used for a bit of roleplay still. So everyone should know what a medbay looks like, so you should know what the Bacta tanks look like. Now, beds, just like I got over here, is a basic sort of medbay setup where you'd have people just coming in, doing little checkups, just seeing if they're fit for duty, stuff like that, just very basic things. You'll also find in the medbay, I generally have one cabinet which has some medications on it. This is usually just a pharmacy, so it will be one of these benches and all that you'll find in it will be just some medication. And of course you see the little desk I've got set up on the entrance to our little training ground here. It's similar to the main medbay. This is for people to walk in, /me signs in, /me signs out, as well as for myself to write reports and such.
That's actually triggering.
We've got these two different types of benches normally in the medbay and sometimes on the battlefield, depending on how big of a tube we have for a medical facility. The benches that don't have a sink on top, these are your generic medical supplies. So this is where you'd find Bacta, bandages, some medications, and simple little things like that. Now, if you were looking for something like a scalpel or a knife or a saw, that's when you'd find it in the drawers under the sinks. This is because these drawers and this bench is for disinfected equipment and for disinfecting equipment with the sinks. Pretty straightforward. Now, just under you guys, just here, there's a large screen by itself, just like the one next to the Bacta tank. In the medbay, these can be used to pull up any medical files, any information you need, like recent scans, stuff like that. Now, you can RP looking up reports if you wish to on these, but you cannot write a report on them. They do not have a keyboard, and as such, they're a read-only device. That's when you'd need a laptop like the one on the bench. Of course, this little setup that I've got here, this is our operation table. You'll see the one in the medbay is almost exactly the same as this one here. So all major surgeries would be performed on the operation bench if possible, and you would generally try and avoid doing operations in the medical beds such as these ones over here, which are more so just checkups, and if you can help it, you wouldn't do a surgery on the ICU beds, which are the ones over here. So that brings me to the ICU. In the ICU, the intensive care unit, you'd have 2 to 3 benches or beds, whichever we use at the time. The ones in the medbay don't look exactly like this one, but these have been used in the past. They each have one bed assigned. One bed is assigned to one screen, which you'll see next to it at all times. These beds and screens only show the data for each other. You cannot look up information for another bed or another room on these screens. They are purely to show the vitals of the current person on the medical bed. This is to help prevent people getting mixed up, looking at the wrong information and diagnosing the wrong person with the wrong thing. Now, that is the basics of the medical RP, and I'm sure all of you know how your medical supplies work on the battlefield, which it would be your defibs, which is a simple right click, left click, easier to crouch down, very basic medical stuff, and then your medkit being a right click and left click, hold down both if you want to click, heal someone else and yourself at the same time. So that's all the very basics that you need to know to be a medic. Now, a lot of people show interest in learning a bit more, which is more of the RP side of things. That is what I'm going to be going into more so now. Certain personnel, such as Lazarus, this good old buddy just up here, he learns a bit more of it since he's one of the few people who can train medics on the ship. And then there's a few other people like Spec Ops will learn a bit more RP, and 612 combat medics and a few other people. We all like to know a bit more of the RP so we can sort of jump into any situation and get it sorted. So, who wants to jump down here and jump on the operation table for me? Well, there goes Wire. So, pretty much it's going to be a bit of an RP situation that I'm going to do. I'm going to have someone on the bed and we're going to do a little scenario and sort of go through some of the RP things that you can do. Yeah, so yeah, let's say Wire's got a broken leg. Yes, you did.
My leg!
So, the reason why I teach people these things is because there are certain medications you can use in lore and certain ones you don't. Some people who've played games such as Star Wars Old Republic would say, oh, let's use a stim pack. In the Clone Wars era, we used Bacta. Stim packs were around, but they were rarely used in the Republic army, as Bacta was more effective and could do more at once and could be used for multiple different things. So they were just stored in med packs, not stim packs. It's the same with Bacta tank. Like pretty much most medication used during the Clone Wars era was a deviation of Bacta. There were some exceptions. You can find a list of these on the Gateway Gaming forums. If you just go to Clone Wars, in character, 612 Combat Medic, on there's a list of medications that you can actually use. So, we've got Y here who has a broken leg. In this scenario, you'd be first of all trying to determine how severe it is, if say the bone is sticking out of the leg or not. But at the same time, if they've got a broken leg, they're going to be in a bit of pain. So the first thing you want to really do is give them something to dull the pain. So I'm going to go get my supplies.
Go away, man. Why, what? Get away from me. What?
So I'm just going to inject with some Nallicaine. Nallicaine is a fairly common painkiller used in the Clone Wars era. So it's going to help with pain, but for people who don't know that, I generally would do things like so I'll do something like that. I'd add a little bit more to the RP. Like, I know what the medication is, but the other person might not. So you'd do something like saying injects Nallicaine to stop the pain. That way they know that what the medication is. Now, of course, because less pain, you'd be trying to examine the leg.
Which is because it's the body there, so... I don't know, just next time don't be so... Alright. Nosy.
So, just going to check the leg, see if there's any bone sticking out that I can see. I can't see any, so it's not penetrating the armour. So, I'm going to have to remove their leg armour to get anywhere further. That's one thing people sometimes forget is if someone's in armour, you're going to have to take it off to be able to do your operation. You can't exactly cut someone open through their armour. So, always keep that in mind. Now that I can see that their leg, I can check again. So I couldn't see anything sticking out, so I've just done a simple scan of the leg just to see how bad the break is. So with something as simple as a broken leg, they'll come to you saying what it is, but you generally make up the scenario unless they react to it. Like if they go, oh no, I can see the bone sticking out my leg, then you go with that. But if they don't say anything, you try and come up with the story a little bit just for the RP, because you're going to know more medical than they are. So I can't see a break, so that's good. But I've just scanned their leg to see how bad the break actually is. So this could be things like, yeah, like Lazarus is saying, or you could just simplify it down to saying there's massive bleeding, it's hit a nerve, it's fractured everywhere. Like, you could just sort of make it up a little bit. In this scenario, I'm just going to say that it's just caused a lot of internal bleeding and just needs to be pulled back into place.
God, man, my legs are broken, it pains, it hurts, my legs fucking shit everywhere, there's blood coming out of every orifice, man. I can't give it any more.
Painkillers, you wouldn't feel the pain.
So, with this, I've realised that there's internal bleeding, so of course I'm going to then have to operate to stop that. That generally means you're going to have to now put them under so you can cut open their leg. Now, I'm going to use a fairly common drug that's used for operations. So Clonogin is just a very common medication used to, well, knock someone out, put them into a deep sleep so they can operate. So, of course, they're so yeah, anyway, they're knocked out now, so I can now operate on their leg. So I'll grab my scalpels, which will be in my medical drawer here.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, since the leg is bleeding internally, once you find that bleed, of course it's going to come out everywhere. So generally you'd want to try and have someone else assisting you to try and put pressure once it starts bleeding. So trainee, once I say, just do /me puts bandages over a wound. All good with that? Or just idle there? Alright. Anyway, well, someone wanna come over here and be my assistant? Yep, there we go. Alright. Alright, so I've just found the bleed, so I'll get my assistant to quickly put bandages over the wound to help stop the bleeding while I get ready to stop it. Alright, so you generally want to try and work in teams. It makes it a bit more effective and more realistic, depending on how massive the operation is. So, of course, they're going to have to take the bandages off quickly so I can try and heal this bleed. So I would generally tell them when to do /me removes bandages, then I quickly do my thing, then they put the bandages back on. Yeah, things like that. Alright, so assistant, I'll get you to quickly remove the bandages. So, just stop the bleeding, just do something as basic as that. And now it's a case of, it's not bleeding everywhere, we now have to worry about getting that bone back into place so we can heal that. So, as I said before, the bone looks in good nick and just needs to be pulled back into place. So, assistant, once I say so, just give their leg a little bit of a pull, so that way it clicks back into place. Alright, just give the leg just a little bit of a pull and wait for the click. Alright. Yes, you're in good hands. I was waiting for you to make another different comment about me having my hands on your hip, but that's... Anyway. So, it is actually a... Yeah, but in real life, it sometimes does happen where they do just pull a leg just to put it back into place. Depends on how severe the damage is. Yes, indeed, but I'm just going along with this, just it's a little bit easier. Anyway, so I've got the bone back into place now, so I've got to make sure I can heal it up. So generally you'd be trying to put something like Bacta on the ends, well, on the break. You can put a metal rod in if you desire, which would just help support the leg, but in the wonderful world of Clone Wars, not exactly required. You could just put Bacta and throw them into the Bacta tank. E-Bacta is actually an experimental Bacta type. It causes rapid healing, but generally causes drowsiness. It's not, well, that's the easiest way of putting it. It's experimental, but it's actually a law medication. So, I've put the broken bone back in place, sealing up the wound. And now, of course, you would then put the person in the Bacta tanks, and that way it can help heal them up. So just RP carrying into the tank, they'll know to stand up and follow you. There we go. And if you want to RP, if you've got a computer terminal in front of the Bacta tank, you can do /me logs how long they're going to be in there for. But anyway, just sort of leave them in there for a little bit. Just do some other RP. In the meantime, you could do cleaning up the operation table. I tend to do that sort of thing. Just a little bit of RP, and then you just go back to the Bacta tank, just do a little RP checkup on them. And then just let them on out. And then their wounds are going to be healed up. It's not required that you do like
I
a full...
feel great.
It's not required for the medical RP that you do full realistic, like every single detail, because unless you're an actual surgeon here in real life, you're not going to know everything down to the letter. So keeping it simple enough that they can follow what you're doing is generally a bit better than using fancy terms that the patient will have no clue what you're talking about. And if you take too long, a lot of people get a little bit bored of it, and then they don't play along as much. There's only certain people on the ship you'll find that will go through a whole an hour and a half operation and RP with you. So you generally try and keep it short, 10-15 minutes, sometimes more. It just depends on the person, as well as how much is going on. Like if for instance the person is RPing back with you a lot, like they keep on going, oh my leg, oh this, oh that, then they're giving you the feedback, which means that they're actually wanting to do the RP. Whereas if they just sort of sit there and let you do whatever you want, you don't know if they really want to be there for too long, so you generally try and not extend it longer than you need to. That's a bit more RP for you, if that helps you at all. So the other thing is, if you, on that little post I was talking about on the forums, there is a couple scenarios that have been put on there as quick little battlefield scenarios and stuff. It does help you as well, but it's just best thing to do is just learn some of your basic medications from the Clone Wars era, as well as some just very basic medical techniques, and you're able to do the role of a medical officer on the battlefield if required, or any minor operation. Anyone have any questions? Yes, trainee. There will be a little bit of a test that I'll do with yourself afterwards, trainee. I'm going to do something dealing with tactics and stuff that will be useful for yourself, which is a bit of my other training that I do as well.
Having fun, Lazarus?
Yes, indeed.
Actually enjoying this. This is quite fun.
Lazarus is always having fun.
You wouldn't become a Wolfpack medic though.
The beef? Huh? You dissing me, bud?
I'll just let you finish that little bit. Yeah, it's kind of what we do. There's a process in lore called flash cloning. So it's pretty much taking cells from a trooper that's fallen, stuff like that, and flash cloning them. So you create a new version of themselves. They age a lot quicker and to mature and everything. So there is a process similar to that. I do sometimes use it, but not as often. Generally, that process is very expensive, and they don't use it on clones unless they're of a significant rank.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, they replace their body part with a mechanical replacement.
Cybernetic.
Yeah. But like,
Technology.
We can become Darth Vader.
Who's Darth Vader?
What I'm saying is, you put the cells together, and then it combines. You combine it into a shape of, like, if anything, a leg. You combine it into a shape of a leg, and then they give you like. So if someone lost a leg, you could do that, but it's very expensive. So you're right about it being very expensive.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've done a bit of the law background researching, and yeah, processes like that are more expensive than just giving a clone a robotic limb. So it really depends on the clone if you would do it or not. You would do it as a, like, say, an experiment to see if it works or not, but like, say if we replace every single clone trooper with new limbs all the time that were organic, it would end up costing a significant amount, which they would prefer to spend.
Like millions of credits.
Yeah.
Maybe even like hundreds of millions of credits.
Yeah. So you try and think of the different things and keep it kind of within the law, not exactly though. We sort of make it up on the fly a bit.
And like someone said here, Darth Vader has robotic limbs, so you could use that as
But when Darth Vader doesn't exist
use
yet.
robotics. Oh yeah.
That's why I said, who's Darth Vader?
Who's Darth Vader?
Nice guys. Real nice.
Mm.
Yeah, fuck, that's two of us that have done it.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's a
Considering anything is alive, yeah, I was wondering, there must just be future teleporting clones or something. Anywho,
we I'm sorry, no!
so, anyone have any more questions before
I'm
we
sorry.
leave it there for today? Because I like to do these sort of here and there. Do too much in one day, and it becomes a bit.
No, this is entertaining. I enjoyed showing up. I'm glad I came.
Yeah, me too.
Well, if people want to give it a shot at trying to do a little bit of RP operation, feel free, and I can give you some advice on how you're going with it. And
Does this
all
mean that
kind of
everyone
jazz.
in the room now has medical licenses?
Not exactly medical. Well, you can do like high-level medical RP than a standard medic, because you're learning how to sort of, like, in the situations, like ways to deal with things. Like, I can make things up on the fly. I'm pretty good at that with the medical RP, but that's because it's one of those things that I'm good at in general. Like yesterday, for example, I made up on the fly that there was a experimental treatment to heal one of the ARC troopers who had damaged their eardrums and nerves, but they didn't realise that it was damaged, and they wouldn't admit to it. So I ended up having to drug them, strap them down to the operation bed, because I had to do the operation while they were still awake to make sure that it was actually working, and put needles through their ear to repair the damage. So there's a lot of different things you can do, as long as it's not something silly. Like, I had one medical personnel once do checkups by twisting people's nipples. So as long as you don't do stupid stuff like that, you can pretty much make up anything you need to do some medical RP.
What the shoot my comms? The weapons. Can I have those back, please?
Sorry, I'm being an idiot. Don't mind me.
It's all good. So,
Anyway, thank you, Bernard, for the presentation.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Everybody give him a round of applause.